season, but I expect him to show up big. I'm hoping he shows up big because if they beat G2 here, they can send a huge message to the rest of the region.
Yeah, they certainly can. It will mean they get on into that semi-final, but let's not get ahead of ourselves just yet. And I'm curious to see as well Leon in this carry position, because I know when Ghost83 joined the roster, there was a lot of discussion internally with the team on who was going to play captain, who was going to play carry. Leon obviously deciding that carry is the place for him.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see what they're going to do on the side of Calamity, because now there's so many captains off the board. Obviously, Finn and Arden are still available, but to take away the Catherine, the Grace, the Lance, the Lyra, those are the top 4 at the moment. And usually when the Finn comes out, it's something that's paired with like a Celeste or a Kestrel. Not likely to be the case, but the Kroll has to come off the table for Calamity, because that is such a strong pick for the side of G2 and Dark Potato. They're going to get themselves the Black Feather, so this is a little bit of that late game insurance. We've seen the Black Feather be able to do pretty well into the Idris. It's not quite the hard counter that it is into the Celeste, but it is still an incredibly dominant pick. And with this Glaive coming through, this could be that Glaive Arden basically run the same composition that we saw Mousesports on earlier today.
Importantly as well, though, Glaive is something we've seen a lot out of Aeon. This is something that I know when he first came in last season, he was looking incredibly strong. Glaive was definitely a comfort pick.
He definitely did great on Glaive, and Glaive in this meta too is a strong pick just because it can have so much influence on the mid game and early game by ganking or picking off players that are out of position and getting advantages, small advantages developed into bigger advantages. The draft coming from G2, it's already very different from what we've seen from them so far these 2 last weekends. So interesting just to see them change their plans and not stick to the guns like we were just saying, expecting they would. The Finn come out for Calamity Reborn though. Very strong, just late game captain hero, especially combined with the Idris. I think it can do great for them if they can scale.
I have to ask about this G2 composition, because we've mentioned the Black Feather Celeste combo in the past. Obviously, Black Feather's good into Celeste, but their playstyles don't necessarily match up that well.
Yeah, but it's okay in this composition, because the side of Calamity, they obviously do have the Glaive and the Idris that can dive onto the Celeste, but they have Black Feather Grace that can just dive onto the Idris regardless of where he goes. If he tries to go onto the Celeste, he's going to be moving away from the Finn, away from the protection that Finn applies, and then Black Feather, Celeste, and Grace can just all collapse onto him. Whereas if they try and play safe, if they try and poke, then you have Black Feather and Grace that can dive right past the Finn and ignore the Finn. I don't like the Finn pickup in this composition, and I really like what G2 has been able to put together.
All right, I want to ask about the pace that you're expecting to see in this game. Who's going to be the ones with their front foot on the accelerator pedal really dictating this one?
Early game, just because of the Glaive pick, I expect Calamity Reborn to be making the moves, playing proactive. Once Celeste gets to level 8 and once Black Feather gets to level 8, that's when G2 are going to have the stronger composition and the stronger general team fighting. So if they abuse that, they can get an advantage. But then, while later, when CP Idris gets to full items and Finn scales, it goes back to Calamity Reborn. So it's very specific points in the game that G2 need to use to their advantage.
So making sure to hit those power spikes and use them correctly. It's time to get on into the second series of the day. Hashtag Vainglory on Twitter to let us know whether you want Calamity to bring out the upset or if G2 are the favorites. Let us know. It's time to pass it over once again, though, to Dowsy and Excoundrel for Game 1.
Here we go, G2 up against Calamity Reborn for our second series of today, Scoundrel. G2 has been showing a fairly strong performance so far in their weeks here in Europe, really looking to try and bring themselves back to their spring dominance earlier on this year.
Yeah, and again, one of those major facets of the G2 composition was always been Hundor. Hundor has been kind of the standout player for them for quite a while now. And on this Celeste, he's got the opportunity to show us that he still has what it takes to, continue to be that standout performer for the G2 roster. Keanu on the Grace, Dark Potato on the Black Feather to try and threaten Leon, I guess, in some way, shape, or form. And not much to shut down the Black Feather here on the side of Calamity. There's not much really sort of stopping him from using that Rhodes offensive to get through those front lines and get to Leon. But, it's Leon after all. I mean, you don't want to beat
who's renowned for his mechanical skill. I thought you may be opening up, but like you mentioned, Leon, pretty hard to stop.
Yeah, I was just about to say, Leon kind of known as being one of the world's best mechanical players, and Idris, I think CP probably having one of the highest mechanical skill caps in terms of his play, especially in the late game, both positionally and sort of straight up mechanically too, as Leon minion candies a giant wave here to put pressure onto Hundor early on. And remember, Celeste's early game wave clear has kind of been hit. This is going to put a bit of pressure onto her. It's going to allow Leon time to back, and should get back before that wave gets back to his own turret as well. So just put that down to allow him an easy back to go and pick up some crystal bits here now.
Quite interesting to see. Leon starting up with a armor. Must have assumed that it would be Hundor on the Black Feather, just not really how G2 have been doing things, but he has been away. BG8, Keanu Nakoa is in a lot of trouble here. Should go down to Leon in just a second here. They're trying to give the kill over to him, and he is able to get it with a Chakram. Aeon and Dark Potato going head to toe, but they will be able to trade one back. Dark Potato picks up that kill. A 1-for-1 trade in the end. Leon, they're able to get that first blood.
That's a good start for Leon here. Obviously, just getting as much gold as you physically can onto him is always going to be one of the better ways to aim your strategy. And they've got that Finn, so he's going to be able to share resistances and share fortified health across the team. Very, very good against the long range of Celeste, which will eventually out. I think that's one of the things that will be on Calamity's mind. You know, you are going to... the best way to play that defensive strategy until they can find that opening. Because apart from Aeon, you'd imagine in the late game that the engage potential is moderately limited from G2, from Calamity. I'm going to sneeze.
Bless you, ex-scoundrel. Hope that that sneeze went all okay. You see Dark Potato moving in onto Eon here. Eon should be able to get away. Nice little use of that afterburn. Does feel bad whenever you have to use it defensively, though. Calamity are going to move forward, looking to try and steal this. Finn has a lot of burst potential in the early game, but way too late to burst that down. Now Aeon's in trouble as Dark Potato with this healing from that Treant will fall down. Scout Trap won't quite get the kill, but Keanu Nakoa will be able to find it in the end. Over on the lane, Leon's struggling against Hundor as well. Those Helo Genesis have been doing work to the melee Idris as he currently stands. Hasn't got the crystal power to unlock a ranged format, although if he builds a crystal bit, which he did, he now does have the crystal power to do so. So it is now ranged for the Idris. Ghost will go very low under the turret, but should be okay. G2 are able to pretty much steal away all the backs there. Calamity are really struggling at this point.
Yeah, Eon and then Ghost specifically being targeted by Keanu Nakoa and Dark Potato. You know, a duo that has worked so well together for a very long time now. And Eon and Ghost had a huge amount of pressure put down onto them and don't seem to have been able to cope with that onslaught that G2 have been providing on the jungle side of things. Leon, on the other hand, slightly behind.
Ooh. Okay, Hundor should be fairly safe here. In fact, Aeon may just go down. If he's not careful, auto attacks come through and Keanu Nakoa will take that one away. Now it's Leon being threatened. Keanu Nakoa will silence up Ghost, and Ghost may just fall to a faint of heart from Dark Potato. No, On Point shall take the kill. Falters one on the side of G2. And if G2 were ever criticized of anything at Scoundrel, it was Dark Potato's weak early game, something he has really worked on in the autumn season.
Yeah, and he's really found a nice home on this weapon power Black Feather, something that has become more and more viable coming from the jungle. Really good draft from G2. You often want to try and pair a Celeste with a Black Feather simply because Celeste's one of Celeste's main weaknesses and one of Celeste's major nightmares, especially as the game goes on, is weapon power Black Feather specifically, because she doesn't want to build armor, doesn't really fit into her kit very well, and she also finds it very difficult to lock him down because of that Rose offensive. He can go straight over that core collapse, which is one of Celeste's main defensive tools. Having it on the same side means you are probably taking away one of the biggest counters of that Celeste. Dark Potato will be piloting that and has had a really good success early on here versus Calamity, and can't help but feel for Calamity. Leon obviously pretty steadfast in the lane. He's got a pretty poor matchup early on versus Hundor, but the rest of his team, they just are struggling to keep up with the pace of the rest of these VG8 teams, and G2 specifically. They've been accelerating their jungle pace. You know, you said they've been working on Dark Potato's early game. It's been showing, and Calamity aren't keeping up.
No, not at all. And at this point, yeah, it's very difficult to stay in the game with a CP address when you are behind. Always have that comeback mechanic, which is that when the Broken Myth and the Eve of Harvest come come onto the build, it just becomes a monster that if he can stack up, stay alive, can really turn team fights around, but they have to get there. And whilst that's all happening, Hundor's only getting stronger and stronger, Dark Potato becoming more threatening and threatening. And so it's a comeback mechanic that's almost countered by the fact that G2's late game is just as strong.
Absolutely, but I mean, we've seen even today, Mousesports showed that CP Idris can very nearly bring a team that I think was predicted to lose from the outset back into the game. And when you've got a carry like Leon, I mean, we talk about it so much, but when you've got a carry like Leon and he's on something like a CP Idris, there is massive potential for once those item spikes come online to really come back into the game with force. And I think that will be on G2's mind, even though they've got the weapon power black feather, pretty good, sort of pick into the CP Idris specifically. Maybe not as good as it would be into the Celeste, but it isn't a bad pick by any stretch of the imagination. As Leon pushes onto that first turret. Here we go.
You might be in a bit of trouble here. There's going to be a quibble to slow Dark Potato out, but here comes that Solar Storm. Leon will be threatened. Dark Potato wants to go in, but a Fountain and a great Afterburn comes out from Aeon to knock Dark Potato away. G2 now have this level 8 on the Celeste, extended range and a turret sieging machine. This turret will easily go down for G2, who have just taken everything so far. A 4,000 gold lead at 8 minutes. They've got gold miners and turrets, and now they're moving into even still more away.
Yeah, and they've nested 4,000 gold in the bank as well because of it, and you can see Hundor very quickly accelerating his build path here. He's seen almost a tier 3 item ahead of Leon, who you would imagine is now working towards Broken Myth second, given his items, but there's also the option of just going towards that alternating current. I don't actually mind the Broken Myth, but alternating current I think is better against the weapon power Black Feather and the Grace specifically, because you're going to need some potential to kite, and it looks like he agrees with me as he's picked that up.
Yep. Something that I've been theory crafting with is Broken Myth on CP Idris when you are desperately behind as a second item, just to attempt to bring yourself back into a position where if those Broken Myth stacks do get to a high number, you're doing a lot of damage on your chakram. But typically, most players will opt in for the alternating current as a second item because it just provides so much kiting ability, especially when you've gone Frostburn. The auto attacks consistently applying the Frostburn slow. Although on a Black Feather, very difficult to keep it up. Leon will get hit by a Solar Storm, and On Point takes him down. Now Dark Ghost looking to get away, but Dark Potato won't make it easy. Makes him force the healing flask for himself, and now no Fountain, no luck. G2 have pushed on into the tier 2 turret, and here comes Hundor with that clockwork now built. Good night turret. It is gone, and Aeon will be forced to once more escape with his Afterburn.
Yeah, and you essentially become a limitless and endless siege machine with the Clockwork and the Eve of Harvest on this Celeste, because you can spam Heliogenesis from a very long range. You very rarely run out of energy unless you're using pretty much all of your skills in succession. And it's very difficult to deal with, especially on a team that relies on positional play so much. Idris is a very positional-based carry, and you have a Finn as well, who he's going to soak these Heliogenesis. He's going to become eventually a stacking machine for this Celeste specifically, and it just limits those areas you can actually find and engage. Although
not Hundor into a compromising position here. He's in a bit of trouble. Forced to cord, pulls 2 in. Hundor though is able to 1v1 Leon, and now a Solar Storm will not quite find the kill, but Aeon was destined for death nonetheless. Ghost, where can this Crocodile go? Only to a grey screen. It is an ace for G2, and they're making this game look easy.
I think you hit the nail on the head there, Dalsy. They're making it look none other than a very easy game right now. You've got Dark Potato, 2-item spike, no reflex block for Leon, as well as he got caught out by that core collapse. It was an aggressive move. I think given this situation in that team fight with Hundor being so low, I think most people would have made the same decision that Leon did right there, which was I'm going to try and take him out. But Hundor outplayed. I think this is the only way to describe it. Wonderful placement of the core collapse, and again took out Leon, who was attempting that tower dive, behind on levels, behind on item spikes as well. Leon very rapidly working towards that Broken Myth though, Dalsy. Although you would imagine Hundor's actually going to finish it first, and right now, if Hundor finishes that Broken Myth, I feel like that's going to be lights out for the Calamity composition.
Yeah, we've got another fight breaking out. Perhaps as Leon able to secure the turret, but Dark Potato going in onto Aeon here. Leon hit by that Helo Genesis and another Shimmer Strikes to try and get away, but here comes the Solar Storm, will be dodged. Leon on the front line, and he is out of luck, will fall down, and now it's Aeon's turn to follow his carry home. Keanu Nakoa says, hello, Aeon. Holy Nova makes himself look impressive. And now it's G2 pushing the lane, but they don't have minions just yet, so at this 11-minute mark, they can walk over towards the gold miner. If he's back spawn in half a second, then Hunt will eagerly eat them up. And Scoundrel, I guess while we've got this kind of little midpoint, we can kind of talk a bit about Calamity Reborn, who are sitting at the bottom of the leaderboard with 1 point, Clash just 1 point below them on 0. Currently, they are in the danger zone. The bottom 2 teams here in Autumn will be facing challenge battles at the end of Split 2, and we've just finished the European Challenge Series VGL Split 1. These teams like Clash and Calamity Reborn, they've got some pretty immense competition waiting for them on the other side of the Challenger Series line.
I mean, we had a great VGL finals. Obviously, Team Queso there had the likes of 90 Degrees as well, another promising team coming through. There's so many good teams now in the VGL Challenger Series, and I think they could provide some real threat to the bottom side of our VG8 table right now. Calamity Reborn, they look a bit despondent right now. The actual team environment doesn't seem like they are playing all on the same terms at this point. They haven't had many weeks where they've played their starting roster at the right, sort of the way they would have wanted to. This team is a real threat of being relegated if they don't shake things up, and you'd expect a team with this kind of talent level to provide a little bit more of a threat, maybe even contend and keep up with G2, but right now it doesn't feel like that's even remotely on the cards. Leon has got a bit of armor in tow, but he's getting caught out by these core collapses in all of the fights. You would imagine that a reflex block would be a point of call for him, but look, it's on the cards.
It's actually this time last season we had the summer season challenge battles, and G2 clearly were not playing to their full potential at Scoundrel. They had some roster issues, they had some real life conundrums that they were struggling to deal with, and they had fallen into the challenge battle zone. And Calamity Reborn was coming out of the VGL Challenger Series and actually 2-0'd every opponent they went up against, including G2. Now we see that G2's on form, and they are not allowing Calamity the same respect. Perhaps this time Hundorf goes down. No, he does not. Aeon cannot find the kill. Leon's dead, and Aeon's dead as well. Hundor may lose his life to a quibble. He does, but the ace will come through. Nonetheless, for G2, 13-2, a 10,000 gold lead at 14 minutes, and a huge wave pushing the base.
Huge wave. I don't know if they're going to be able to finish the game here, but they might get at least one Vein Crystal turret. At the very least, they're going to shove the minion wave in and back off. Leon, I actually think, made a pretty good move there. Sometimes when you have an opportunity to push onto a Celeste in a team fight, you have to take that opportunity and try and take the kill, because otherwise you might not find the ability to get to the backline as easy in the future, especially if they have time to reposition, coordinate. But again, they're just so far behind. No reflex block, no shielding. Gets shredded by the Supernovas and the Heliogenesis when he got hit. And Hundor again able to escape with just a sliver of HP, and it just felt like the Calamity Reborn roster was a little bit behind the pace of Leon there as well. It felt like it was Leon trying to 1v3 and the rest of Calamity trying to catch up with him at that point.
Very interesting to see Keanu Nakoa building a heavy prism, probably going towards a Shatter Glass on this Grace instead of a Echo for one single huge burst heal and a bit of extra damage reduction.
Yeah, it's pretty much just a direct replacement for the Echo and the Grace build. I think given the way these team fights have been going, the huge heal onto Celeste might be better than splitting your heal into 2. It also means it frees you up to not have to channel that ultimate twice in a row, meaning that you have more time to position for Holy Nova, more time to find good benediction locations, everything like that. So this basically keeps Keanu Nakoa a bit freer in team fights. And also, given that Hundor is the one taking the late Crucible.
That's a pretty big force to core. Dark Potato goes very low to Leon. Calamity Reborn have separated G2, but they're looking to try and get onto even playing grounds. Dark Potato will get the Divine Intervention, and Leon is split from Aeon. Aeon in the front line, looking very low. Solar Storm's already been used by Hundor here. It is just going to be G2 now repositioning in and looking to get on top of Leon. Oh, that damage is just disgusting. And Dark Potato will be able to finish the job. That's Ghost falling as well. Hundor with his full build and Leon with no shielding, in fact opting for armor, will be a easy target for the Celeste.
Whilst I think armor is pretty critical against the Black Feather, do you not feel like Leon has died more times to Hundor this game than he has specifically to Dark Potato? I feel like Hundor's been doing the majority of the damage to him, and the core collapses and the stuns have been a major issue for Leon in these fights. As the solo storm takes him down. This is G2 just winning, Dowsy.
This is G2 just winning, unless Leon makes a miracle happen, which he will not be able to do, unfortunately. It is G2 winning once more, and Hundor, the god that he is on this Celeste, once more finding another victory. G2 have done it so many times this season, and it just feels like it is becoming a constant in the European Vainglory 8. Give Hundor Celeste win the game. I wonder if the desk